Greetings, Lunatians. So today we're gonna be doing a video on how to evaluate some cards thought process, and particularly on polarized cards. I will explain what is that later. And we will be starting with Carrot Hammer. So this Carrot Hammer, if you don't remember the effect, is on the video right here. You can pause it and read it out. And okay, so Carrot Hammer. Okay, before we start, I want to explain there's this thing called vanilla test in card games, basically. So when we say vanilla, we are talking about the stats such as the energy or the damage or shield. Every numbers on the card except for the card text. We ignore the card effect and we only look at the numbers, such as Terror Chomp, ignore the effect, so it's 1 energy, deal 120 and 30 shield. Hot Butt, 1 energy, deal 90 with 50 shield, and so on. So this is important in card game because you can evaluate a card whether it's good or not just based on the stats only and ignoring the card text. Just ignore the card text for now. So looking at the 3 cards just now, we can see that in high rank popular cards, with 1 energy, you will get around 140 total stats. We add up the attack and shield together for 1 energy, and it's around, you want to deal around 110 for your attack damage with 1 energy. While meanwhile for 0 cost cards, Koku, Bidens, lagging here, we can see that the total stats is around 40 to make a good card, ignoring the card effect like the popular cards out there. 0 cost cards are 40 stats when you add up attack and shield together. So these are the benchmark for a good vanilla card or a good vanilla stats cards in Axie. So now back to Carrot Hammer. So why we are talking about Carrot Hammer today, because it's a polarized card. When I say polarized, means when you use it, you have multiple outcome. While some are good, some are bad, based on the vanilla test just now. So when you use Carrot Hammer, there are a few different scenarios. So scenario number 1, when you use Carrot Hammer, opponent breaks your Axie shield. He breaks your shield and then it kills your Axie. Okay, it kills your Axie who use Carrot Hammer. So now, when that happens, you gain back the energy from using Carrot Hammer, right? So in this case, your Carrot Hammer basically becomes a 0 cost card, 0 energy cost card with because you dead, your Axie died, and usually it's on plant and you don't get to attack. So basically this is a 0 energy with 40 stats, with 40 shield. Now 0 cost card, 40 shield, based on the vanilla test just now, is basically average. So it's not, we can't say it's good, we can't say it's bad, it's just average. So this is the first outcome. For second outcome, when you play Carrot Hammer and opponent doesn't attack into you or does not break your shield. So when opponent doesn't attack to you or does not break your shield, means your Axie will survive, right? When your Axie would survive, then your Carrot Hammer card basically becomes, you spend 1 energy. You spend 1 energy for 70 damage. And the 40 shield might not matter here because if opponent doesn't attack to you, the 40 shield we can ignore. So that's why I especially highlight out is 70 for attack damage. So this is the second outcome. So for this one, the vanilla test is actually below average, because remember back in vanilla test just now, we said in Axie for 1 energy we want to deal around 110 damage, usually 110 damage. So this scenario is not good for us when we use Carrot Hammer. Then the outcome number 3, the scenario number 3. The third scenario is opponent breaks your Axie shield, but he did not kill your Axie, and your Axie still get to attack. Now this case is very good for us. Why? Because your Carrot Hammer, you gain back the energy that you spent, and now we can translate the card into, it's basically a 0 energy cost card because we get the energy back. So it's 0 cost, and we deal 70 damage. And also because opponent breaks our shield, means our 40 shield just now is actually helpful in a way. So we get the value of the shield as well. So in this scenario, we get a 0 energy card with 110 stats, which is very good. Very good for us. Alright, so there are 3 scenarios now for Carrot Hammer. So of course, when we try to play Carrot Hammer, we want to make sure, we want to try to push the scenario into scenario number 3. Then it's a good scenario for using Carrot Hammer. So how do we do that? So here's a very simple graphic for what I think is the best case of using Carrot Hammer. So now you have a Axie with around 200 HP left, and your opponent has Aqua with 4 times 110 damage cards. So he has 4 cards like Angry Lamb, Koi, Swift Escape. He has 4 kinds of 110 cards, damage cards. So with your 200 HP here, basically you can tank 2 cards from your opponent, right? Because each of his cards will deal 110. So you can tank 2 cards from your opponent. Now this is a very good scenario to use Carrot Hammer here. Why? Because when we put up our Carrot Hammer, with the 44 shield, because of 10% boost, with the 44 shield, our effective HP is now around 240, 250, which makes our tank will only die if our opponent use 3 cards. So in this case, our Carrot Hammer is basically forcing the 3rd card from our opponent. So in this case, if my opponent want to kill my Axie, he has to spend 3 cards. And in this scenario, very high chance we will get scenario number 3 or scenario number 1 if our opponent want to kill us, kill our Axie. And however, in this scenario, same scenario, if we have 2 Carrot Hammer in hand, right? If we have 2 Carrot Hammer in hand, I wouldn't play the 2nd Carrot Hammer. Why? Because now when you are at 200 HP, you tank 2 cards. You play 1 Carrot Hammer, you tank 3 cards. Even if you play another copy of Carrot Hammer right here, your effective HP is around 288, which is still 3 cards. So your 2nd Carrot Hammer does nothing extra compared to the 1st card. Compared to the 1st Carrot Hammer. Your 1st Carrot Hammer, you are forcing 3rd card from your opponent, but your 2nd Carrot Hammer does not. Your 2nd Carrot Hammer steal 3 cards from your opponent. It's still the same thing. So when we play 2nd Carrot Hammer here, right? If our opponent pass, we actually get 2 times worse value from this scenario number 2. If our opponent doesn't attack to us, like he decided to pass or something. So this is a bad scenario for us. So in this case, generally, we don't want to use our 2nd Carrot Hammer. However, of course, there are some exceptions. Maybe this is a very simple one. Like sometimes your opponent Aqua has like Tail Slap, or your opponent has Risky Fish, or he has a Beast card. So the calculation is much more complicated than that. But this is just a simple way to think of when you should use your Carrot Hammer, and not just round 1 I have Carrot Hammer or I'm gonna use it. It's not like that. It's not like that. You want to use Carrot Hammer when you think your opponent attacking into you, so you don't get scenario number 2. Okay, so basically that's it. That is how we use Carrot Hammer. Any more question you guys can ask in comment. And then there are also other polarized cards out there in the Axie world. This game is actually quite deep, to be honest. So some of these are like Sponge, Sticky Goo, or Ivory Chop, because they also provide different outcome when your opponent attack into you or it doesn't. And basically because opponent does not attack into you, your shield is basically your shield value is basically like, how to say, it's like almost a waste. It's almost a waste. So usually most of the time, a general rule for me is when you're using these polarized cards, you don't want to use both of them at the same time, because if opponent doesn't attack to you, you will get less than average outcome for yourself. So usually you don't want to use both at the same time, but of course there are some scenarios that you should. So we're going to talk about one more card, but not this, because these, although they are still polarized, but their scenario are much more closer. They don't have like a really bad outcome. Like even if I deal one energy, if I use one energy to deal 80 damage, it's still okay, especially opponent is a bird or aqua and this is a reptile card, it's still okay. So the card I want to talk about is Vegetal Bite. Now Vegetal Bite is an interesting card. Why? Because it has two scenarios and it's very polarized. So when you play Vegetal Bite, of course you should combo it. I guess everyone know what is combo. Basically you want to play with another card. So on this Axie, so if you play Vegetal Bite and you get to steal from your opponent, you are dealing, basically the scenario is you are using 0 energy for this card because you get to steal, right? You cover back the energy that you spend on this. You deal 30 damage while you destroy one of your opponent energy. So it's a 0 cost card to deal 30 and destroy your opponent energy. In this scenario, it's very good. Okay? But in second scenario, if your opponent does not let you steal, they spend all his energy, and you play this and you don't get to steal, now you are basically spending 1 energy to deal 30 damage, which is very bad. Based on the vanilla test just now, 1 energy you want to deal 110. That's like 4 times worse than the vanilla stats, right? So that's why if you guys, some of you might watch my stream before, my Twitch stream, and I don't really like to use both Vegetal Bite at the same time. Why? Because if I don't get to steal at all, I'm basically spending 2 energy to deal only 60 damage, which is very bad times 2. However, I can understand why some people does it, and there are still some scenarios I would do it, especially let's say opponent has a bird or a Ronin beast, which they usually play their cards when they have 3 or more energy, so they will tend to save their energy more. So in this kind of scenario, you can of course try to use double Vegetal Bite here to kind of like try to slow down his backdoor. Like let's say he has a cheating jump, a shrimp, or a bird with dark soup. You don't want him to come to your backline. So when you play this, you are basically forcing him to use card as well. Use his energy as well. So you can kind of like delay his combo for a little bit. Okay? So this is Vegetal Bite. And yeah, so basically this video, I made this video is I realized a lot of my guild scholars just play Carrot Hammer without thinking and play it for the damage, and play in a really bad scenario, and they play at their opponent pass, or they play the Carrot Hammer with Vegetal Bite. They play Carrot Hammer with Pumpkin, October Treat. They play it with October Treat, and turns out they're just spending 1 energy for 70 damage, and it's very anti-synergy. So these are the my thought process for how do I use this kind of polarized cards. So a few disclaimer here. Of course, you might disagree with me, because I do understand some people like to play double Vegetal Bite at round 1 for sure. Ignoring whatever cards your opponent have, they play double Vegetal Bite round 1. So I can't really say most plays are absolute correct or wrong, because this game is a guessing game after all. And yeah, and if let's say everyone follow my strategy in this video, then your play is actually correct, because your play would win us. right? Because if we don't steal, we only play one vegetable at a time, then you can easily play double and steal back from us. And so the objective of this video is I want you guys to think more about your cards and what kind of scenario that is best for your cards to be used. Before, don't just simply play it. Don't just simply play it because you have the card in your hand. And yeah, and last but not least, if you are stuck in a rank, don't give up. And if you are unfavored, don't give up. Just always pray for critical. That's it for today. Thank you.